Once upon a time, I used to think life was terribly unfair. Every day I went to work, gave it my all, but then one day I lost my job, without a single warning. I sat there wondering, why is this happening to me? But today, I want to share with you a perspective that completely changed how I view the worst moments of my life. It's a secret from Buddhist philosophy that I wish I'd known sooner. In the next 10 minutes, you'll discover why everything happens for a reason, not by chance, but as part of a greater journey. How to turn pain into strength, like coal transforming into a diamond, and a simple exercise to find peace, even when everything falls apart. Have you ever had one of those days where everything goes wrong, and you just want to scream, "Why me?" I've been there too, until I stumbled upon a simple yet profound truth. Before we dive into the details, let me take you back to the moment I learned this lesson, from a broken cup and a storm in my life. Once upon a time, I used to think life was just a series of random events, as if someone up above was rolling dice to decide how my day would go. But then, a saying from the Buddha made me see everything differently. Nothing exists entirely on its own. Everything is interconnected. Imagine this. Have you ever wondered why a bad day happens? I certainly have. A few years ago, I lost my job at a startup in Seattle. My laptop shut down, colleagues whispered goodbyes, and I stepped out into the freezing rain, asking myself, what did I do wrong? But a few months later, I got a job offer from a bigger company, a place I wouldn't have dared dream of if that fall hadn't happened. It turns out, the door that closed in Seattle opened a new path in California. What I realized is that life is like a giant spiderweb. Every thread is connected. A storm in Texas can send gas prices soaring in Ohio. A kind word you say today might lift someone's mood tomorrow. Nothing is random. Everything is part of a bigger picture that we don't always see right away. So what's the small lesson here? Don't be quick to judge a tough moment. It might just be a knot tying you to where you're meant to go. And if everything is truly connected like that, what's behind it all? That's what I want to share next. A simple yet powerful principle people call karma. Let's explore it together. If life is a spiderweb, then karma is the invisible threads tying everything together. I used to think karma was something distant, like do good and get rewarded, do bad and get punished. But no, it's much closer than that. Karma is the law of cause and effect. What you think, say, and do today quietly shapes your tomorrow, sometimes in ways you'd never expect. Let me tell you a little story. A few years back, I had a friend in Chicago. Let's call him Mike. Mike loved posting harsh comments on social media, things like criticizing coworkers or bad-mouthing his old boss. One day, he applied for a new job, full of hope. But then, the recruiter found those posts, and the door of opportunity slammed shut. On the flip side, I know a friend named Sarah in Denver. She often took time to help her friends, even with small things like listening to them vent or sending an encouraging text. Then one day, when Sarah needed support to launch a business project, dozens of people were ready to step up and help her, like a circle coming back around. You see, karma isn't some god sitting somewhere judging you. It's more like a quiet friend, keeping track of every little action, from a smile you share on the street to a harsh word you let slip. In American culture, we often talk about luck or bad luck. But with karma, there's no such thing as random. It all stems from you. So, what's the small lesson here? Plant good seeds today, a compliment, a kind gesture, because you never know how they'll bloom in the future. And if karma shapes our lives, what happens when things change? When the things we cherish don't last forever? That's the next story I want to share with you, about impermanence, and how it teaches us to love even the things we've lost. If karma is the thread weaving our lives together, then impermanence is the breath that keeps everything in motion. In Buddhism, they say nothing lasts forever. Everything changes, whether we want it to or not. At first, that might sound sad, but when I reflect on it, I find it truly liberating. Think about it. The winter storms in Minnesota eventually fade, the golden leaves of autumn in Vermont eventually fall, and even the iPhone you're obsessed with today will be outdated by next year. I remember during the COVID-19 pandemic, I had to leave New York, where I'd lived for a decade, to return to my hometown in Ohio. I packed up my things, said goodbye to my favorite coffee shops, and felt like I was losing a piece of myself. Back then, I just wanted to shout, why can't things stay the same? But then in Ohio, I started to enjoy quiet mornings with my family, moments I never had time to cherish in the big city. It turns out, change wasn't a loss, it was a new door opening. Impermanence teaches us that everything, joy, sorrow, success, failure, is just a wave in the ocean of life. When we try to cling to a moment, like wanting to hold on to summer forever, we make ourselves suffer. But when we let it pass, we find lightness. I once heard a saying, "Every storm eventually passes, and so does every pain." So what's the small lesson here? The next time you face change, whether it's losing something or starting over, take a deep breath and tell yourself, this isn't the end, it's a new chapter. But if everything passes, how do we learn to love even the things that are gone? Let me tell you a little story about a broken cup and how it changed the way I see life. If impermanence is the breath of life, then this story is how I learned to breathe with it. There's a Buddhist tale I love about a Zen master and a broken cup. One day, a young student came to the master, lamenting that life was too unfair. "Master, why don't good things last forever?" The Zen master smiled and handed him a small porcelain cup, the fragile, beautiful kind you'd want to cherish forever. "Do you like this cup?" the master asked. The student nodded, "Yes, very much." Then, without another word, the master let go. The cup fell to the floor, shattering into pieces. The student was stunned. "What did you do that for?" The master replied, "I loved the cup when it was whole, and I still love it even now that it's broken, because from the moment I picked it up, I knew one day it wouldn't be here." That story changed how I see everything. A few years ago, I lost my first car in a flood in Houston. It was the car I'd saved up for a whole year to buy. I loved every little scratch on it, every trip it took me on. When the water swept it away, I stood there, heart heavy, feeling like I'd lost a friend. But then I thought about the broken cup, and I asked myself, can I love it even when it's gone? Turns out, I could, because the memories of it stayed with me, and losing it taught me that happiness isn't tied to the things we own. The truth is, we often suffer because we want to hold on tight to an old relationship, a job that no longer fits, or even our youth. But when we learn to let go, we don't lose, we just let it become part of our story. So what's the small lesson here? When you lose something, try whispering to yourself, "Thank you for being a part of me," and let it go with gratitude. But if loss is meant to teach us to let go, could the hardships in life teach us something even greater? Let me tell you about how pain can become the greatest teacher of all. If letting go teaches us to love what we've lost, then pain is the silent teacher that helps us grow. In Buddhism, suffering isn't seen as a curse or something to escape. Instead, it's like a fire. It can burn you down, but it can also forge you into something stronger, like coal turning into a diamond under pressure. I used to think pain only brought tears, until it taught me how to stand back up. Let me tell you a story. During the 2008 economic crisis, I had a cousin in Detroit. Let's call him James. James lost his job at an auto factory where he'd worked for over a decade. He fell into dark days, bills piled up, his confidence shattered, and at times, he just wanted to give up. But instead of running away, James started over. He enrolled in an online programming course, even though he'd never touched a computer beyond the basics. 2 years later, I saw him again. Now James was a software engineer in Silicon Valley, with a radiant smile I'd never seen before. He told me, if it weren't for those bad days, I'd never have known how strong I could be. See, in American culture, we often view suffering as failure, as if struggling means we've done something wrong. But Buddhism sees it differently. Pain is a teacher. It doesn't come to destroy you, but to refine you, teaching you patience, compassion, or simply how to get up when everything falls apart. James didn't just find a new job, he found a stronger version of himself. So what's the small lesson here? The next time you face a rough day, try asking yourself, what's it teaching me? Patience? Strength? Or just how to keep going? Pain isn't the enemy, it's a guide. And if pain can be a teacher, could the seemingly meaningless failures in our lives hold something unexpected? Let me tell you about a lost traveler, and how that changed everything. If pain is the teacher that refines us, then sometimes failures are hidden gifts we haven't yet recognized. There's a Zen story I love, about a traveler lost in the desert. He trudged through scorching sand, throat parched, not a drop of water left. Finally exhausted, he sat under a small tree, angry and wondering, why did I have to get lost like this? But little did he know, just over the next hill, a ferocious sandstorm was raging. If he'd kept going, he might not be here to tell his tale. What he thought was bad luck turned out to be what saved his life. I've had a similar experience. Back when I was in college in Florida, I failed the SAT, not once, but twice. I remember sitting in my room, staring at the score sheet, thinking all my dreams of getting into a top school had vanished. But because I failed the SAT, I ended up at a community college near home. There, I met a professor who changed my life. He encouraged me to pursue writing, and that led to a full scholarship to transfer to a university later on. Looking back, I realize, if I'd passed the SAT from the start, I might never have found this path. Life is sometimes like a book. We can only see the page we're on, not the whole story. What we call failures, a job that didn't work out, a relationship that ended, might be blessings in disguise, guiding us to where we truly need to be. The Buddha once said, "When the wrong door closes, the right one opens." So what's the small lesson here? When you hit a roadblock, don't rush to judge it. Wait and see. It might not be a dead end, but an unexpected turn. And if life is full of such turns, how do we stay calm when everything flips upside down? Let me share a simple way that's helped me let go, and maybe it'll help you too. If failures are sometimes blessings, then the key is learning to let go, to embrace them. I used to think letting go meant giving up, as if I was losing or stopping caring. But no, in Buddhism, letting go is about trusting the flow of life, letting what needs to come arrive and what needs to leave depart. A Zen proverb says, "Let go or be dragged." And I learned that the hard way. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I broke up with my first love in Atlanta. We'd been together for 3 years, and when it ended, I tried to hold on, texting, calling, even blaming myself for not doing better. But the more I clung, the heavier I felt, like I was dragging a boulder behind me. Then one day, I tried something simple. I sat down, took deep breaths, and imagined dropping that boulder into a river, letting it float away. I didn't forget that person, but I stopped fighting the pain. And oddly enough, a few months later, I met someone new, not because I was searching, but because I'd let my heart lighten. So how do you let go? I want to share 2 small steps I still use today. 1. Each day, spend 5 minutes sitting quietly, breathing slowly, and picturing your sadness or worry dissolving like clouds in the sky. 2. Write down something you can't control, a mistake, a loss, then tear up the paper as a way of saying goodbye. It doesn't erase what happened, but it stops you from dragging it along. What's the small lesson here? Peace doesn't come from controlling everything, but from letting it pass, like releasing a leaf onto a stream and trusting the river knows its way. And as we learn to let go, we start to see the journey of life more clearly. Let me close with one final reflection about how everything leads us to exactly where we need to be. And so we've taken a little journey together, from the invisible threads of karma, through the breath of impermanence, to how pain and failure quietly guide us to where we need to be. I want you to remember this. Life isn't a series of random days. It's like a book. Each chapter, whether tough or beautiful, is a piece that brings you to the you of today. I once heard a story about a woman in Portland. Let's call her Lisa. Lisa lost her home in a massive fire, left with just a few clothes and an old suitcase. She thought her life was over. But from those ashes, Lisa started anew. She opened a small bakery with the little insurance money she had, and now, that bakery is where hundreds of people find joy every day. Lisa told me, if it weren't for that fire, I'd never have known I could start over so strong. Everything happens for a reason, not to break us, but to build us. So what's the small lesson here? When you face a bad day, whisper to yourself, this is where I need to be, and I'll find my way through. If these stories touched you, leave a comment. Share a moment in your life when you realize things aren't random. And don't forget to hit subscribe, because I'll be bringing more lessons like this to help you believe your journey is worth every second. You won't want to miss it, I promise.